Everybody has noticed the astonishing sources of energy that seem available to those who enjoy what they're doing or find meaning in what they're doing. That's a quote by Charles Garfield. Team synergy is all about overcoming obstacles and pursuing your goals and your dreams. When you have team synergy, that means you don't get bogged down in conflict or angst or any of that. You just move forward and persist right through problems. Have any of you ever been on a team that you wish had more team synergy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yes.
Good. Then this information today will definitely be useful. I'm going to talk about, these are kind of like the ABCs of team synergy, but they're the IAIs. They're intention, tolerance for ambiguity, and interaction skills. And when you incorporate these into your teamwork, you'll have team synergy. If you have a strong enough intention, that means that your determination makes you unstoppable as a team. In terms of ambiguity, when you can tolerate ambiguity, what does that mean? That means that when your team has faith, even when you cannot see the way forward, when it's not clear, you keep going anyway. And finally, interaction skills. This is all about how well you relate to each other, how well you listen to each other, communicate, and how well you are able to have in-depth discussions about the crucial issues. There's been many famous teams that used team synergy. Teams at Pixar that created all the great animated films. The team that created the iPod, the Sony CD player, and the IBM ThinkPad. And then there's inventor teams like Watson and Crick and the Wright brothers, who all used team synergy. Probably the best example I can give you of the power of intention, that's our first one here, is what happened with the Apollo 13 astronauts. They went up in space and they had the intention of landing a man on the moon. But what happened is they went up in space and boom, there was a huge explosion. At that moment, their goal changed and it was simply, let's get back to Earth alive. They had a lot of problems that happened because of this explosion. One thing was they didn't have enough oxygen to breathe to make it all the way back to Earth. So the team of NASA astronauts and scientists on the ground figured out how they could concoct a device up in space in their spaceship using what they had up there that would filter the air so that they would be able to make it. And they got through that. The second big hurdle had to do with power. They did not have enough power to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere and make it all the way back to Earth. So the scientists at NASA said, here's what we want you to do. We want you to shut off the power except during crucial moments. And that brings me to the third hurdle, which was particularly dicey. The three astronauts, because they had to shut off the power, so these three astronauts had to manually coordinate their efforts and line up the side of the spaceship with the trajectory of the Earth very carefully so they did not accidentally go off into oblivion. And they did it. It was the power of intention that got those astronauts safely back to Earth. In terms of ambiguity, the Wright brothers faced a lot of ambiguity. No one knew how to achieve heavier than air flight. No one had ever done it. They worked on this, and many of their contemporaries, other inventors who were working on this at the time, viewed airplane flight as being like bird flight. But the Wright brothers were able to step outside that paradigm and view it a different way, because they realized we don't have the technology to do that. We're going to have to do it a different way. And they had to resolve all the problems of it. They achieved flight at Kitty Hawk and were in the air for about 22 seconds. But that's when their work began, because they had to figure out how to make that airplane controllable and stable, and they persisted, and eventually they did it. My third key ingredient is interaction skills. If you have a multidisciplinary project, a project that requires a lot of different disciplines, nothing happens unless you can get together, unless you can communicate and combine and integrate your work together. This is very important. I wanted to give you a great example from history of a massive scale project that involved great interaction skill. And something that was very positive, but I couldn't find it. The best thing I could find had to do with building a bomb. But I'm going to talk about it because it does show you the value of interaction skill on a large scale. And then I'm going to give you a second example about a massive project or a project that could be done at a grander scale. So let's start with the first one, and this actually did happen. It's the Manhattan Project. And this was all about building a bomb to end World War II. This project was led by Robert Oppenheimer. He was the technical person in charge of this. There was urgency about this, a time crunch. Oppenheimer realized that all over the United States, as well as all over the globe, there were experts at different universities who held key components of this. There was ordnance, metallurgy, physics, and chemistry. All of this had to come together. He talked to Leslie Groves, the colonel, the military contact, and got permission to create a special facility in Los Alamos, New Mexico, where he could bring all those experts together. At Los Alamos, New Mexico, there was 160,000 people working on this project at any given time. And over the course of the entire project, it was 600,000. I should tell you something else about this. These different departments like physics and chemistry and whatever in the military, they were compartmentalized and separated from each other for secrecy. They wanted to maintain that level of secrecy. But Oppenheimer got special permission to bring them together and have them sort of go outside the realm of that so that they could have discussions. And one reason, a big key reason they were successful, is that they had a weekly forum where he would invite anyone there who could help solve the problems to present their ideas and make progress on it. We have the free world as we know it, probably because of the success of this project. I wanted to talk about something more positive, though. So I started doing some research, and I found another project. This is happening now. It's called the Ivanpah Solar Generating System. It's about generating solar energy. It's happening in the Mojave Desert in Needles, California. This project does not involve 160,000 people yet. It involved about 2,100 people. That's still a pretty good amount of people. And this was being done, or the engineering and construction and the startup was done by Bechtel Engineering. They faced problems and challenges that they had to really have innovation and ingenuity to solve these problems. Here you see, this is like they're like service tents, and this is where they manufactured or assembled key components for this project. These were mirrors or heliostats. They consulted Detroit executives to find out how to get a assembly line process as efficient as possible. And they got to where they could manufacture about 300 of these for a 10-hour shift. So that was a key part of it. The key investor, NRG Solar, Google is an investor. It's part of Obama's Sunshot Initiative. So there's a lot of different entities involved in this. The main technology is being provided by Bright Source Energy. They make this, it's called a power tower technology. And at the top of this tower, there's a turbine. The way this works is, these are little mirrors. These are the heliostats, 300,000 software-controlled heliostats. And they collect the sun's energy and reflect it up to that turbine, and that's what generates the energy. Here you see 3 different towers and the mirrors all around, generating carbon-free renewable energy. Imagine what it would be like if we could put the same level of people, resources, and energy as we put into the Manhattan Project around projects like this. We could get rid of pollution and solve the energy crisis all in one fell swoop. Wow. Today I've talked about team synergy and about how when your team has team synergy, you're able to help motivate each other and move each other forward. You're able to overcome obstacles and achieve things that you could not achieve separately. Together, you have a lot more power. And when you get together in a team and use team synergy, there's just a sense of wonder and excitement about it. When people enjoy what they're doing and find meaning in what they're doing, they achieve team synergy. Make your team a high-performing team. Use team synergy.